West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Bell. This is Cheryl in Sumner, Washington.
Welcome.
I have sort of an Amityville tale.
An Amityville tale?
Yes, sort of. About 15 years ago, my husband and Van and my two teenage daughters, we moved from California to Dodge City, Kansas, and my sister and her husband was already living there. And, of course, we needed a house, and she went out house hunting with me, and we found this really precious old two-story refurbished house.
Well, I'll tell you, Dodge City's kind of an eerie place.
Yes,
anyway.
it is. And, of course, now I wish I had time to tell you all the eerie stories that happened to us there, but I'm only allowed one story. But I have some doozies. Anyway, so believe it or not, the house was on Elm Street. So, I mean, that should have told us something then, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it was just an adorable place. So we called the realtor, and he showed us the house. And my sister is psychic, by the way, and I mean, she astral travels out of her body and everything. But both of us had sort of a funny feeling when he showed us the house. But we didn't want to say anything to each other. We just kind of, we thought, well, maybe it means nothing, And the house was just adorable. They had completely refurbished it, and it was just darling. Anyway, so we went ahead and moved in, and it had the two bedrooms downstairs and a sunroom and the living room, dining room, and kitchen, and then upstairs was a bedroom, like an office room, and another small bathroom. And we'd only been there about a week, and things just started happening, just Amityville-type stuff.
Like what?
Oh, God. We would wake up in the middle of the night and there'd be water running, and we'd go downstairs, and the kitchen sink, the water would be filling up in the sink, and our whole kitchen was flooded with water. There'd be black stuff in the downstairs toilet.
Black stuff?
Black stuff. My daughter in one of the bedrooms, she would tell me she didn't want to sleep in there anymore because there was a lady with a black dress that sat on the end of her bed, and she didn't want to be in
a black dress.
Like the old-fashioned black dresses, the long sleeves with the little lace collars, and like the old, like in the cowboy days. I wish I had time to tell you all the amazing things, but I'm just going to try and touch on what I can.
Black in the toilet, that's bad.
Black in the toilet's bad, but it gets worse. I mean, like I said, there was this lady that always appeared in my one daughter's bedroom, and she never did anything. She just sat there on the bed. And then across the hall was my other daughter's bedroom, and she was one that liked a little bit of light on in the hallway. And she'd wake up in the middle of the night, and her door was shut, and she couldn't get out her door, and she'd bang on her door screaming. And my husband and I slept upstairs, so I'd have to come down and try to get her door open. Finally, we started stacking bricks and books and stuff in front of her door so it wouldn't close at night. And then, but still, those would be moved, and the door would shut. Okay, I would take a bath downstairs. Someone would come behind me and start whispering to me. Upstairs in the bedroom, in the middle of the night, I'd wake up, and my husband's face would look like an old woman's face.
Oh, no.
In the upstairs bathroom, it was just like, it just had a shower and a sink and a toilet. And in the middle of the night, we'd wake up, and there'd be water squirting out of the sink like a waterfall, and there'd be water in the hallway.
Let
me think. Our washer and dryer was down in the basement. So my daughters and I, we'd go into the basement and do the laundry, and the door would shut and lock us in there. And obviously we stopped doing any of that at nighttime because the lights started going off at night, and then we'd be locked in the basement with the lights off. Then we tried burning candles, and then so we didn't do any laundry at night anymore. And
what'd you do with this house?
Oh, well, we only lived there about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months maybe. My daughters and my sister's children, they went to the Catholic school around the corner. There was a Catholic church there. And finally it started getting really bad. Just horrible things kept happening. My husband was a trucker, and he'd leave like at 2 or 3 in the morning. And I would start hearing someone walking up and down the stairs, coming up and down the stairs. Finally, I would have him wake me up, and he'd take me downstairs, and I'd sleep in the sunroom because it was the only what I called the clean room, that was the safest room. My daughters started spending the night at their friends a lot. There would be a form that would be, now this house had all new everything in it, new carpet and everything, and there'd be this form that looked like a person laying in a fetal position, and there'd be a black stain on the carpet, and then it would go away. Finally, my sister and I couldn't take it anymore, so we went to the Hall of Records, and we checked out the house, and we found out that the lady had bought the house, and she'd refurbished it. I won't give any names here, of course. That wouldn't be right.
Thank you.
And she had bought the house from, it was the estate of the people that sold the house, of the old woman that lived there. And her husband had died in the house, and the son, I guess the son had been found on the living room floor in that position. The husband had something wrong with his leg, and he'd walk funny, so I guess that's the sound we'd hear on the stairs. And the old woman, she went to the Catholic Church, and she finally stopped going, and they came over to check on her, and she had become, she wouldn't even leave the house, and they finally had to drag her out of there and put her in a home, and she kept screaming and saying that no, she would die in her house and she didn't want to leave it. Well, they would put her in a posy, at the old folks' home, and she'd get out of that, and she was always trying to escape. Anyway, she finally passed away. So anyway, when we checked the records of what we came up with, we felt like there was some sort of an evil in the house, but the old woman was somehow, I don't know, either the force or whatever it was pulled her there, and her soul couldn't go to the light, and so she was like earthbound in this house.
Gotcha.
So then we went and got the priest over at the church, and he came to bless the house.
Well, this really is Amityville.
Do I still have time?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So we had 2 cats and 2 dogs. They wouldn't go upstairs. So the priest came. He came in the house. He went upstairs. He started sweating real bad. He started becoming real ill. He said, and so he blessed the house as good as he could. He said he had to leave. Anyway, he had to serve Mass later that afternoon, and he fainted at Mass, and he became real ill for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then when we go to Mass, he wouldn't talk to us. And so finally, we started blessing the house ourselves, and I believe that we finally sent the old woman to the light, and her grave settled. We had heard that when there's still a mound over the grave and it hasn't settled, that means the spirit's earthbound. We don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, the grave settled because we found her grave. And there was a baby that would cry, and it was just...
believe me, I've got this picture graphically. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
And good night to you. Oh, my. Oh, my. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Yeah, this is James from Florence, Alabama.
Hello, James.
How are you doing?
Okay.
After I tell this, I probably won't be able to sleep for a couple of days.
Well, try and tell it gently.
Okay. Well, when I was about 15 or 16, I went to bed one night, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up from a sound sleep, and I had that feeling like I was being watched.
I know the feeling.
And trying to shake myself out of sleep and everything, I just kind of glanced down to the foot of my bed, and I saw a pair of red eyes.
Red eyes.
They were about 1.5 feet above the end of
the end of your bed?
The end of my bed. And as I first thought I was dreaming or hallucinating or whatever, and I glanced over at my alarm clock, and of course it said like 3 o'clock in the morning. So then I thought, okay, I'm awake. Okay, this is really happening. And I tried to scream, and of course nothing came out.
Oh, listen, that'd be the equivalent of about 10 cups of coffee
exactly,
all at once.
I tried to move, and I couldn't move. And I kept thinking, okay, now what am I going to do?
Right.
So there's a formation with the eyes. The black entity itself looked kind of like the best way I can describe it would be like a miniature funnel cloud.
Oh, brother, a miniature funnel cloud.
And the eyes were stationary, though. And this whole thing was like just spinning, like, you know. And so I kept looking over at my clock, and like 3 or 4 minutes had gone by, and it was just in one place. It wasn't moving around or anything. And then I finally thought, okay, I know this is real. Now what do I do?
Well, you know you've got a good heart.
Well, yeah, really. And so it was I had about 5 feet between my bed and my bedroom door. And I was thinking, okay, now how can I actually get off this bed before this thing gets me? Because I thought, you know, I just had this feeling that I was in trouble. And,
yeah, you were in trouble, all right.
And so, as a matter of fact, I looked over at my clock again. It said 10 after 3. And it started to come around the corner of the bed.
Ay, ay, ay.
And as soon as it did, I hit the floor running. I went straight to my mom's room, got her out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was frantic. You know, I was panicking and everything. And she was like, what? And I was trying to tell her what was going on. I just said, come on. We got back in the room, she turned on the light. Well, nothing was there.
I mean, you were going to take your mom into this black swirling entity with red glowing eyes?
Exactly.
Come on, Mom, you got to see this.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just in my head. You know, I mean, I knew it wasn't, but I wanted somebody to verify this.
Yeah, but what if your mom had turned into mangled little pieces of...
But anyway, that is...
what happened to you?
Well, she passed it off as it was just a nightmare or a dream.
Naturally.
And, of course, to this day, I swear that it happened, that it was real, and for days I could not sleep. Matter of fact, I didn't sleep in that room for a while.
I understand.
And to this day, Art, every time I tell that story, I don't care. It can be at noon, broad daylight. I still get scared.
Of course.
You
it would scare me. And
like I said, I probably will not sleep for a day or two now.
Well, good luck to you, and thank you for reaching out and touching us with that.
Thank you, Art.
we won't sleep either. Oh, brother. A black swirling entity with stationary red glowing eyes. Right. West of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hello, Art.
Hello.
This is Everett from Oregon. Listen to you on 1190 KX.
Ah, yes, the powerhouse in Portland.
Yeah. I got to set this story up. I'm a little nervous. It's the first time I ever talked to anybody on the radio.
All right, well, just take a good deep breath and tell us like it is.
Okay.
Or was.
Okay, me and my sisters and my parents all lived in this house in Milwaukee, Oregon. And my oldest sister, Karen, she slept up in the attic. And she kept on hearing, like, at nighttime she'd hear scratching and, like, growling noises.
Growling?
Growling noises.
Scratching, maybe mice, maybe rats. Growling, not good.
Yeah, so she kept on complaining about it to my parents, so they moved her downstairs with us. Mm-hmm. And then one night, I woke up and I was scared to go to the bathroom by myself because I was only like 5 or 6 years old. And so I woke up my middle sister. She's like, you know, in age group, middle, okay. And asked her if she'd help me go to the bathroom. You know, walk me to the bathroom. So we walked down the hall, and
you had to get your sister was how old?
She was I don't even know. I was 5 or 6, so she must have been 8 or 9.
And you had to get your sister to help you to the bathroom?
Well, yeah, because I was scared. I was always scared of the dark when I was younger.
All right.
Okay, so we're walking down the hall to the bathroom, and we look out into the living room because there's a doorway, and the couch goes sliding across the living room.
What?
The couch goes sliding across the living room.
While you're watching it?
Yes, and this huge hand, looks like King Kong's hand, comes out from behind it.
Oh, man.
And it starts, moving towards us, so we run back to the room, you know? And I jump in my bed, and I throw the covers over my head, And I sit there for I don't know even how long. And
Are you sure now that this was not your bladder preparing to explode?
It's possible. I don't know.
I mean,
My sister saw it too, so I don't know.
Doesn't sound like it. All right, so you ran back to the bedroom.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done, yes.
And I pull up, after I don't even know how long, I pull the covers up, and I see this thing, and there's no way, with the size that it was, it could have passed through the doorway, but it was hovering over us, you know? And then it just seemed to go away, and I must have waited for like 2 or 3 hours. And then I was like, I have got to go to the bathroom, you know? And so I got my sister to help me go back, you know, to walk me again. And we got to the bathroom this time.
Yes.
And
I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know. But, okay, so then when we were walking back, the door handle to the going up to the attic was rattling. And the door was...
God.
There's a whole bunch of stuff with this house, but that was the big one.
Oh, that's a big one, all right. So it was basically, it was a hand after you.
Yeah, it was gigantic. Like it looked like King Kong's hand. It filled up the whole living room. And the next morning, the couch was moved out a little bit, but it wasn't like thrown across the living room like it was. Yeah.
Oh, sir, I'm laughing because that one scares me.
It's kind of. It was. Well, I'm serious. That's what I saw. I was only 5 or 6, so I don't know, but. 5 or 6 is old enough never to forget that. Yeah, I always remember that.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Take care. Oh, I don't know if I like that one at all. A giant hand moving this couch, sliding it fast across the floor, and then chasing you into the bedroom. And your already swollen bladder, you fling yourself into bed as you know you would, right? I would. And there's the hand above the bed. Listen to this. My best friend was around 12 years old, growing up in Denver, and had a fight with his parents. He stormed off to his room screaming, "I hate you!" and slammed the door. His mom didn't appreciate it and wanted him to apologize, but he said it again and again with his mom locked out of the room again and again, "I hate you, I hate you." She kept trying to talk to him, but he kept screaming, "I hate you," until he began to get hoarse. At some point, some entity began to appear in his room near him. He saw a red outline of the being, but otherwise it was invisible. He felt a chill as it came near him. Sat down, making an impression on the bed, an actual physical impression. At that point, he freaked out, screamed "Jesus," and started apologizing profusely to his mother. Began screaming "I'm sorry" hoarsely. The thing shot up straight through the ceiling. It's not that he thought that his mom sent the thing to curse him back, but he definitely realized the chanting of "I hate you" invited whatever it was in. On the international line, you are on the air. Hello.
Good evening, Art.
Good evening. Where are you?
This is Jean. I've been up in Victoria, British Columbia.
Welcome to the program. Good to have you.
Thank you very much. There's a house in town, Art, here in Victoria that my parents bought back in about 1941.
Yes.
And that house has 2 ghosts in it. One is my brother, and the other is my mother.
Oh, my God. You know who they are?
I know who they are.
How do you know who they are? I mean, do you actually see
I'm absolutely positive and without doubt, and I can tell you how.
Please.
In 1957... my brother Jim was killed in an accident. He was only 23, and he had been in the Army and a local police officer. Mm-hmm. And it was a very tragic thing, as you can well imagine.
Of course.
And as the years passed, he was sadly missed. And more years passed, and my mother became very, very ill. Mm-hmm. And in 1983, we lost her to cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the house was sold.
Right.
Well, the new owners, after about 6 months or a year, contacted my sister and myself.
Oh,
because
really?
There was somewhat odd things happening. And we went over there, and it was a young couple, and the father-in-law was helping with the renovations, because it was an old house. It needed a lot of work.
How did they even find you?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Probably through their realtor is the only thing I can think of.
I would imagine. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, my sister and I went over, and the gentleman's father was very upset, very, very agitated, and it was quite obvious that we weren't really welcome there. But the young couple, they took us down to the basement, and they had been seeing this image down there of a very tall young man with dark hair, but he had something shiny on his left breast, like a police badge.
Oh, my.
So, within the year, they sold the house. They got the hell out of there. They were very, very uncomfortable. So about 2 years passed. The next new owners of the house track us down.
Really?
Yep. And this was a very young, very pleasant brother and sister.
Okay.
Now, these two were ready with the teapot and the cookies. They were very, very interested in the history of the house, and, had there been problems while we lived there? Well, no, we hadn't. So again, we're down the basement, and they described the same image of a very tall young man, and my brother was 6'2½", in dark clothing with the shiny on the left breast and the cap on. So we're going, uh-huh. But in their case, when they renovated the kitchen, it was like the old V-joint with the heavy molding on the floor.
Sure.
Well, they took the molding off, and behind the molding, they found an old photograph of my brother.
Oh, Lordy. In uniform. Let me guess.
Yep, in uniform,
yeah.
You're right. And the other thing that was happening is they were sitting in the front room watching TV one night, and the rocking chair started to move, all by its lonesome.
The rocking chair.
The rocking chair. And in the rocking chair, they saw the vague image of a woman in her 60s with dark hair and a pretty house dress on. And you should know my mother was a very kind and gentle lady, and her family was her whole life. And she was sitting in the rocking chair with a cup of tea.
Oh, boy.
Now, I asked the young lady, I said, well, are you nervous? And she says, no, it's kind of like having my mom around. It's just kind of like having a guest, and it's very comfortable.
Well, I suppose every time that house is sold now, you're going to get a call.
Actually, this happened the last time was about 15 years ago.
The disturbing thing about that, to me, and it's the same thing that disturbed me in the first hour, is we all want to know what happens when we pass. And somehow the prospect of being, of remaining in an area like that, in a house, as an almost non-existent being, is not exactly a pleasant prospect. If it's really the soul, the consciousness of the departed. I mean, I'm sure that's crossed your mind.
Well, I have two thoughts on that. Okay, number one, I think that for those on the other side, time is not linear as it is for us.
Yes.
And it could well be that they're in an eternal now.
Well, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. I really, really appreciate your call. Thank you. It's true. You've got to think about it a little bit. Certainly that caller could be correct. And it could be that something of the person's soul is left here on earth, and something has moved on. That's a bit more of a comforting feeling when you think about it.